More than 200 years ago, before the United States had large public systems to respond to families in crisis, communities created their own solutions. Neighbors formed mutual aid societies. Faith groups, they established giving networks. And volunteers came together to support families in need. And over time, those efforts evolved into what we now call the nonprofit sector. By the early 20th century, that sector had grown stronger and more formalized. Laws around charitable giving and tax exemptions created a nonprofit infrastructure that was designed to sit alongside a growing government sector and a thriving business community. And each had a really important role to play. Government could operate at scale, business could drive economic growth, and nonprofits, they could stay close to communities, responding quickly to needs, filling gaps, and building trust where people live. Today, the United States has something truly unique in this world. More than 1 million nonprofits working every day to strengthen communities. Philanthropy, volunteerism, and community service, they're not side notes in America. They are structural pillars of how we care for one another. And that's something we should be so proud of. But it also invites a question. If having more than 1 million nonprofits automatically resulted in the change we all hope to see, would so many families still be struggling? The truth is, this work, it has produced extraordinary compassion, dedication, and effort. But it has not always produced the life-changing support that so many communities and families need. Because over time, we built a nonprofit sector that rewarded something very specific: independence, separate missions, separate funding streams, separate outcomes. We have asked nonprofits to be excellent individually, but we've rarely designed a system that allows them to succeed together. And that matters because families, they don't experience life through the silos of nonprofit missions. They experience life through moments. Moments like the one that has stayed with me for years. Early in my career working as a legal aid attorney, I met a mother, Angela. Angela was doing everything right. She was working full-time, juggling shifts, caring for her 2 beautiful children. But Angela was struggling. She was facing some pretty serious challenges, and she needed help. Over the course of a few weeks, I saw Angela get referred to 4 different nonprofits. One offered a little bit of rental assistance. Another offered food support. A third, affordable childcare, but there was a wait list. Another, critical health services for her very, very sick child. And each one of them asked her to fill out forms, verify the same documents, and tell the story of her struggles again and again. To make it all work, Angela traveled across the community, driving from office to office, most of the time during work hours, hoping her car would hold up and that she'd make the appointments on time. And I remember watching what this process did to her. At first, Angela, she was so hopeful. Every referral felt like it just might be that one that would help her succeed. But then that hope turned into exhaustion. The process was grueling. She was so stressed her kids could feel it. And she constantly worried that if she missed one form or one appointment, the help might disappear. And the hard part about all of this is that this didn't happen because nonprofits didn't care. In fact, each nonprofit cared so deeply and wanted to help Angela. And importantly, each nonprofit did exactly what they were designed to do: rental assistance, food support, childcare, healthcare. And each of them counted their interaction with Angela as a success, because for them, it was. They had accomplished their nonprofit's mission. They had provided their specific service. In a way, they had checked the box. But the problem here, of course, is that Angela, she's not a box to be checked. She is a whole person. But no one was looking at her entire journey. Instead, Angela, she was navigating a maze. In the end, Angela did receive pieces of help, but the journey, it required immense resilience, and by the end of it all, she was still struggling. As a nonprofit leader, that moment has shaped the way I think about the work that we do. It made me realize that solving complex challenges, it's not just about having good nonprofits. It's about having nonprofits that work together in a way that actually works for families like Angela's. And pushing nonprofits to do more and more work alone, it's not the answer. We are at a pivotal moment in our community's journey here in Savannah, Chatham County, Georgia. We know the landscape is changing. Federal resources look really different. The economy is constantly influencing behaviors, all leading to this community and communities across the country knowing that the time to evolve, it's now. And I serve with amazing leaders of our nonprofits who feel the urgency. We live it every day. And we're all starting to ask ourselves a little bit of an uncomfortable question. What if doing more good is not, in fact, the same as creating real change? So, we're trying something different. We're shifting the question from how do you grow your individual nonprofit to how does your nonprofit fit into a shared journey for families like Angela's? And when nonprofits come together around that question and around trust, something happens. They start mapping the real paths that families take through a community, where they enter, where there are challenges, where things are working, and where there may be gaps in resources. Services, they stop competing and they start complementing one another. And all of a sudden, Angela, she's not navigating a maze anymore. She is moving through a system designed to support her. And one really important tool we have in this work that we didn't have over 200 years ago when nonprofits were first being envisioned is data. Data does two important things in this effort. First, it helps us understand the challenges our community is experiencing. And second, it can help us understand how we are doing together in addressing those challenges. So, first, what does the data tell us about our community here in Savannah, Chatham County, Georgia? According to a recent report titled "The State of Alice in Georgia," 15% of families are living below the federal poverty level. But we know that poverty statistics alone, they don't tell the full story. Many families are living above that line but are still struggling to make ends meet. And in fact, this same report tells us that an additional 29% of families in our community are living above the federal poverty level, working, oftentimes multiple jobs, but are still unable to achieve financial stability and are living paycheck to paycheck or worse. Together, that means that 44% of our families here in our community are struggling to get by. That is nearly half. And that tells us we have important work to do. The second thing data can help us do is it can help us understand how we're addressing those challenges together. Individual stories matter. They help us understand whether a family is getting the support that they need. But when we all track those experiences in the same way, and perhaps even in the same system, well, that turns into something entirely different. It becomes shared data we can act on. It can help us understand what is working and where we may need to change our approach together, because change isn't a bad thing. And some communities are already doing this work really well. Our neighbors in Spartanburg, South Carolina, local leaders there use shared data not just across nonprofits, but across nonprofits, governments, and schools to collectively identify their community's goals and ensure that everybody is moving toward them together. It is powerful work. It changes the game, and it can be done. And conversations have already begun here in our community, because we all know that as challenges grow more complex, economic insecurity, housing shortages, rising costs, the communities that will succeed, they won't be the ones with the most programs or the most nonprofits. They'll be the ones with the strongest connective tissue. The future, it belongs to places that invest in trust, coordination, and partnership. Places that deeply know and understand that lives aren't changed because one organization works harder, but because many organizations work together. This July marks the 250th anniversary of our country. A moment to reflect on our past and imagine what the next 250 years might hold. The history of the nonprofit sector, that history makes one thing very clear. That sector was built by communities, shaped by communities, and ultimately defined by what communities chose it to be. And the next 250 years, I assure you, it will be no different. Our nonprofits, they are not separate from us. They are ours to guide, support, and invest in. So, get involved. Be part of the future of this movement. Learn about the nonprofits serving our community and across the region. Volunteer with them. Help lead them. And if you fund nonprofits, look for ways to support collaboration, not just individual programs or specific issues. And if you do this challenging work every day, and if you lead a nonprofit, know that your greatest impact may not come from standing out, but from standing together. That is how we are going to change Angela's story. Because alone, we do good, but together, we change lives.